Hi, Dr. Ayala.
Hey, how are
Join
you?
a seat here for a moment, please.
Yes, yes.
Hi, Dr. Ayala. This is Dr. Ayala.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
My name is Jackie Matthews. I'm with the Illinois State Board of Education's Communications Department. Dr. Ayala, you might have been told a reason why you're here today, but I have a very special guest who's going to tell you the real reason why you're here today.
Hello.
Hola, prima. I'm just playing.
I'm State Superintendent Dr. Carmen Ayala, and I am very pleased to announce that the real reason why we're here is to officially welcome Dr. Michael Ayala as the Illinois Cook County Co-Regional Teacher of the Year.
I had no
You didn't know
idea.
it? You didn't know
I
how
had
you
no,
were?
not at all. I came in to talk. You had me completely fooled. I'm in the.
I'm Mr. Rogers. I'm the principal here. I just have been lying to him for the past like 15 minutes about just all sorts of stuff.
We weren't lying. We were having a really good discussion. Wow. I don't know what to say. Thank you.
Briefly. You can leave your stuff here for a minute. We're going to take pictures.
Namaste, we are India.
Hey, we're here at Prospect today for the Every Night Multicultural Celebration. It's an awesome day. We have about 80 students right now going ahead and exhibiting their culture.
Hey, we represent Nigeria, so here we have two of popular snacks. This is Puff-Puff and then this is Chin Chin. Puff-Puff is like a fried dough ball, and then Chin Chin is also made out of dough, but it's lighter, like a snack.
Ciao! This is our Italian teacher. Ciao, ciao! We're here from Italian Club, and we're so thankful to be here. We're just showing off some of the, cool things about the culture, and we have some trivia, we have good food, we have pizzelle and focaccia.
Representing about 23, 24 different groups here, which is almost double from year one. So we're super excited to really share our diversity, but also really kind of see our common humanity that really unites us all.
Bingo! No!
I really like the District 214, how they are doing, they're portraying all the cultures. The kids are so awesome. They have a nice tables that they arranged with the things from their culture and the food and the drinks, and they're really proud to show their culture. And I really, really wanted to thank District 214 for bringing this kind of event to the school.
This is a fun day for everyone, whether you're an exhibitor or you're a student attending. You get to either share your culture, music, food, maybe even a performance today. But then also you have the students coming in, just checking out the action, and really they're really kind of seeing the really diverse backgrounds of every night here at Prospect High School.
Test 1, 2.
Hi. Come on and sit down next to me. Nicole, I have a friend that wants to talk to you.
Hi, Nicole. My name is Ann. I'm the Illinois State Board of Education's Educator Recognition Coordinator.
Hi.
How are you today?
Doing good. Lots of planning.
Good. Nicole, you may have been told a reason why we're here today from Superintendent Art, Superintendent Lopez, or maybe Principal Norris. However, I'd like to welcome a special guest to tell you the real reason why we're all here today. So I'll hand it over to Illinois State Superintendent Dr. Carmen Ayala to share some good news.
Hi, I'm the Illinois State Superintendent Dr. Carmen Ayala, and I am just so pleased to announce that the real reason we're here is to officially welcome Nicole McCormick as Illinois Special Education Teacher of the Year.
Oh my God! They all.
Sorry, it was Jack's cover story.
It was so realistic. There's lots of fun things happening here.
Yeah.
This is such a surprise. I'm very, very honored.
for our District 214 Special Olympics Night of Hoops. This is a special night where Special Olympics teams get prime time using our main gym here at Hersey High School during the varsity time slot. We have a full crowd and we have some Special Olympics gear, tons of athletes and families waiting for an awesome game tonight.
I'm on the Hersey girls varsity basketball team, and to give up one of our nights where we're supposed to play to let them have the big stage is really awesome for them. And Hersey's a very special school because we get to do stuff like this. We're lucky with the CLS program that we have in our building that other schools don't. So we love jumping at the opportunity to work with them.
I'm really excited. Tonight is the hoops. Shoot some baskets.
Tonight's all about having fun. This is technically a practice for us, and we just competed in our regional games, but I want to see lots of baskets, lots of cheering, having our awesome students that from SOS help organize this event, have some fun little activities planned, and just for our students to feel like a varsity baller today.
The Morning Mix, it's Chris, Nikki, Whip, and Violetta.
Hi. So we do a lot of communicating like this.
Yeah, it's a lot of hand signals and writing
It's like
quick
airport
notes.
traffic controlling in here.
Hi, I'm Chris Petlak. I host the Morning Mix here on 101.9 The Mix in Chicago. Class of 2004 from Prospect. Go Knights.
Welcome to the Morning Mix podcast. This morning we started with everybody's favorite topic, mother-in-laws.
Yeah, some
you'll love
actually really like theirs.
Being a radio host is a blast. It's really fun. We have a 4.5-hour show every morning live. We're on from 5:30 to 10, the Morning Mix. My favorite part about it is that it's basically a 4.5-hour structured improv. That's the way I look at it.
We're like, we don't even care about the book. We just want basic heat.
You got central air.
When I was at Prospect, I wanted to be a chef and own my own restaurant. That was my dream. I'm going to go to the Culinary Institute in Rhode Island, and then one day I'll own a restaurant. And every day I wake up so glad I did not do that. I've watched The Bear on Hulu. I'm like, there's no way I can ever do this.
You're on the hip-hop station there. I don't want to say hip.
Late summer, early fall, I was invited to Prospect for homecoming for 2022 as they did a distinguished alumni event, and I was going to be honored as a distinguished alumni, which was very flattering, and it was a very fun whirlwind of a day. It's just wild to see how far the school has come since I was there, but also to know that a lot of the tenets that made it this amazing place are still really in place there. So when I was at Prospect, John Marquette, who used to be the head of the arts department there, and introduced us to this new young guy named Jeremy Morton. Getting to meet Mr. Morton and learn about him and learn from him, and he became a big impact on my life because he was so encouraging and so instrumental in me realizing that maybe this is a thing that I want to pursue for the rest of my life, is entertainment in some way. And he kind of opened my eyes up to all the different facets of entertainment and what I could do.
The last thing I'll say is this is really awesome, and it's an honor to be a distinguished alumni, but I wouldn't be one if not for distinguished teachers like Jalen. So thank you guys very much.
When I was at the homecoming game, there's a whole broadcast team now that does live streams of the games. That is crazy. I would have knocked someone down to get that opportunity. And it just takes you asking and finding out, well, what else is there? Have I explored all of these potential opportunities? From what I saw when I was at Prospect, the faculty there and the students have created this really welcoming, warm, creative, and safe space for people to be exactly who they are and who they want to be. So go be who you are and go be who you want to be. If you are at all considering pursuing entertainment, my advice to you would be to try as many elements and as many facets of that world as you can. just take the swing and try stuff. And then as you get on in your career, you'll be asked to do a lot of things, and those things won't scare you because you'll have tried them out. In entertainment, you may hear the word no. You might be told you didn't get that role, or you can't go do that thing, or we're not accepting this script, or you need to go rework that thing, and easily you could be deterred by that. But instead, what you should do is look at it as motivation for you to get on to the next thing. Don't let it knock you down, just, you're gonna go over that and keep going. Because you'll learn in time that it's really not that hard to hear a no and then decide like, okay, cool, I'm just gonna keep going. And if you just keep going and you stick with it and you stick at it, then really good things will come your way.
Nikki and I have learned to read each other's scribbled handwriting really quick. I'll be like, Harry? And, yeah, now, no, okay, great. Oh, or she'll be like, you forgot to do this thing. I'm like, oh, yeah. So there's a lot of that happening in here too.
One of my favorite things about being on the Morning Mix is working with the team I get to work with. My co-host Nikki is absolutely hilarious, so we just have a blast goofing around all morning, which is kind of crazy to say that that's what we do, but getting to work with the team every day is just such a blast, and I'm so grateful that these are the people I get to come in and do this with every morning.
Of course, it's awesome that Jill Biden's coming. Out of all the schools here in the great country of America, she chose Rolling Meadows High School, the home of the Mustangs.
This is crazy. I'm gonna tell my kids about this. I think it's really cool, especially for me personally, because she's a teacher and I want to be a teacher, so it's really cool for me.
I'm the president of Model UN, so I'm pretty excited that she's here because it's fun that there's an actual political leader at our school.
Out of all the schools in the whole nation, Jill Biden chose Rolling Meadows. It's a really great school, and I'm excited.
It's exciting because it's the first lady. You got the president's wife coming to our school in the suburbs just to check out our programs.
The First Lady's here today, and I get to follow around with my camera and take photos and videos to document her experience here at Rolling Meadows High School.
We are super excited that Dr. Jill Biden is here today at Rolling Meadows High School. She's an educator. She wants kids to have their very, very best of experiences. We're here to explore our college and career pathways. We are so excited to welcome her here today.
Good morning! Good morning! You're so quiet. This is not how you are usually.
I am so proud of the work that we've done here in the district over the last decade, building career-connected learning pathways. And what's exciting about this recognition, it really is an acknowledgement of a decade of work by our principals, our school board and community, our teachers, and the students that are excited to engage in these unique opportunities that help inform solid, important decisions that impact the rest of their lives.
If we could take what we have here, bottle it up, and have it across the country, this would be a better country.
It's such an honor to be at Rolling Meadows High School today to welcome Dr. Jill Biden, the First Lady of the United States, and 3 cabinet secretaries to kick off National Apprenticeship Week. It's just off the charts amazing, and I'm so honored and thrilled to be the superintendent of such an amazing and phenomenal district.
As a community college professor, I see how badly we need this and how kids can start, just like all of these, just like Kate, they can start early, they can decide on what they want to do, and then, and so not everybody needs to have a 4-year degree. This is just, it's all about jobs.
Today was incredibly awesome. I got to sit at the panel right next to the First Lady and hear what she had to say. It was just an incredible experience to be able to be there and hear what they had to say and then also talk with them, not just listen.
So I was inspired because my mom is a 3rd-type cancer survivor, and seeing the treatments that she was given really brought her low, and it was not a very good time in my life at all. And I'm currently looking at biomedical engineering because there's got to be a better way to handle that. And
when I shared the personal story about my mother and she took that into consideration and was extremely sweet and definitely thought about it, it made me feel extremely noticed.
I totally agree with you. I understand that. Yeah, so it came from the heart. Yeah, it's amazing.
This was an amazing experience that I know I'm extremely lucky to be able to be a part of, and I'm never gonna forget this ever.
Hi.
Hi, First Lady. You've got our teacher here.
Anthony Genevieve. Are you not gonna do it in Omar?
I didn't know which was which.
Okay, I'll take it as a compliment. We're gonna talk about our high mileage vehicle here.
Just had the First Lady come by and see our first high mileage vehicle. Pretty awesome showing the First Lady all the great work that our students do in 214 and Meadows.
And this is a car that we raced last year and we built, and Omar over here was the one who had a good hand into building this.
It's quite exciting. I've never met someone this important, and like for her coming to our school and into my class and me even being able to talk to her is
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have three sets of minutes that we should approve. January 19th, 2023 business meeting. January 19th, 2023 closed session minutes. February 2nd, 2023 special board meeting minutes. Could I have a motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Heineman.
Aye.
Kreutzer. Aye. Palmer. Aye. Petro.
Aye.
Rauch.
Abstain.
Walker.
Yes.
Dessling.
Yes. We have an extensive number of things on our board meeting tonight, and hopefully we can move through those decently and with some vigor. So the first one is board recognition.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Arlana Bedard, and I'm with an organization called the Illinois Association of School Boards, otherwise known as IASB. IASB is an organization that's been around for over 100 years, and our purpose is to provide the tools and support that school boards need in order to ensure excellent practices at the school board level. School boards across the state of Illinois. I'm here tonight to share that your Board of Education, the Board of Education for High School District 214, is a recipient of IASB's 2022 School Board Governance Recognition Designation. And this is kind of a big deal. We currently have 849 school boards that are members of IASB. This year, 33 of those school boards were chosen for this recognition, and I feel very honored to be with one of them tonight.
Thank you.
With this award, you are being recognized for your high levels of engagement to professional practices, the modeling of behaviors that lead to excellence in local school government, in pursuit of the highest quality public education for your students. On behalf of the IASB team, I commend you. I thank you for your commitment, your hard work, and for the distinction of receiving the School Board Governance Recognition Designation. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You guys have to go up there and get a picture. And I happen to come with your plaque as well as the pins. I think we're going to take a quick photo to celebrate.
We don't have to. You're going to. Yep, all of you guys.
Okay.
All the board. We'll just sit here and smile. Look pretty.
Maybe slide over this way a little bit. This way? Yeah, a little bit this way.
One, two, three. And if I can get one close to this. All right. I see myself in the reflection.
Wait a minute. Oh, no. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Congratulations again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your coming. Oh, you bet. I think appreciate it. Yeah, yes, good job.
Pass one to Mark. You can pass those down that way, and one for Kat.
One for you and pass them on.
So is there anybody else that wants to come up and congratulate us and give us an award? I mean, we're open to it. No, I guess not. Okay. Superintendent Arndt.
I'd be very glad to introduce this next very special guest, and Mr. Maggi will give us a preview of some of the events that have taken place with our special student.
Thank you, Dr. Arndt. First, we'd like to play a brief video.
Well, a sophomore from Rolling Meadows High School sat next to the First Lady during the address.
First Lady Jill Biden invited her as an example of how career-connected learning is helping Americans prepare for good-paying jobs.
Hello. Hello, Kate?
Yep.
Hi, it's Jill Biden. How are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing great. I hear that you're coming to Washington next week.
I am, yes.
Would you like to be my guest at the State of the Union?
Yes, I would.
Okay, that's great. I can't wait to see you. I hear your mom's there with you.
We can't wait. Thank you so much for the invitation. We're really excited. We've actually never been to D.C.
Oh, no kidding.
No.
Oh, you're going to love it.
We can't wait.
You're going to love it. So good. I can't wait to give you a hug.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I met her in November once, so for me to have that big impression on her and to like realize, oh my god, like she remembered me, kind of an unearthly feeling.
This was an amazing experience that I know I'm extremely lucky to be able to be a part of, and I'm never gonna forget this ever.
Thank you. Dr. Arndt, would you, Dr. Lopez, Board President Dustling, and Board Member Petro please join me for student recognition? Kate Foley, would you please join us up front? In November, co-interim superintendent Dr. Lopez received a call from the White House asking him if they could showcase District 214 due to the work he has spearheaded and the relationships he has built throughout the country to secure funding and build replicable models of career-connected learning. As the main driver of the career pathways and early college credit work in 214, he speaks nationally as an advocate for relevancy at schools, business partnerships, and career pathways has built a strong national network to secure additional funding for our programs. Dr. Lopez facilitated the roundtable discussion at Rolling Meadows that featured the First Lady and the U.S. Secretaries of Commerce, Labor, and Education, Harper College, and Rolling Meadows' very own Kate Foley, a sophomore studying computer integrated manufacturing. Kate and Dr. Biden truly shared a connection during the roundtable discussion. Last week, Kate was personally invited by Jill Biden to attend the State of the Union address. She was one of 26 guests and even had the honor to sit beside her in the First Lady's viewing box. The First Lady said she was impressed by Kate. She tweeted, "You light up the classroom when you talk about your dreams of becoming an engineer. I am honored to have you join me at the State of the Union." Kate, thank you for representing us in Washington, D.C. We are so proud of you and look forward to seeing more great things from you.
My goodness, what a thrill for that young lady and her mother. Just amazing. Very good. Okay, we're now at the point where we're going to have public comments on non-agenda items. I've been struggling with my voice a little bit, so I'm going to have Vice President Palmer read the instructions.
Thank you, President Dustling. Public comments. The Board of Education welcomes public comments at this time on non-agenda items. There are also 2 other opportunities to address the board during the meeting. The first is following each action item presentation, following board discussion before the vote. And the second is following a discussion items presentation, following board discussion. In a minute, we will call to see if there's anyone, and we have a few people that have signed up to speak, and we'll call you up to the podium. We believe in free speech, and as a board and district, we value comments from the community at our meetings and through emails. We appreciate everyone appearing before the board and treat all with courtesy and respect. The members of your Board of Education are members of your communities. They are serving because they believe the district should provide the best possible education for every student, and they believe they can assist, support, and work towards that belief. They volunteer their time. There's no salary provided for their service. Please offer comments regarding concerns about the district, but please try to present them in a fashion that provides dignity to you, the sender, and consideration of the board members and district staff. The Board of Education asks each person to please limit all their comments to 3 minutes. However, if several people want to address the board on similar topics, the board president may limit the time to 2 minutes per person. Although comments may be made on almost any matter related to the operation of schools, comments will not be allowed identifying individual students or staff members. The board practice is not to respond to public questions or comments at this time. However, we do listen carefully. If requested, a written response will be provided. To be fair and consistent to all addressing the board, the same protocols and procedures must be in place for everyone. The green light indicates your time has started, the yellow light indicates 30 seconds remaining, and the red light indicates 3 minutes have expired. Please come forward to the microphone and clearly state your name for the minutes. If you wish a written response, please make sure that Ms. Keys has your full name and address on the sign-up sheet. Got me at that end. Thank you for your comments tonight.
Okay, we do have 4 people that have signed up. And first is Amy Osterman.
Hi, my name is Amy Osterman. I'm a former 214 alumni and specifically moved to this area so my kids could have the same education that I felt fortunate enough to have. And my daughter was struggling with this, and so I thought I would give you guys a pop quiz. And I would like an email response with your answer to the following prompts that she was given in an environmental science class at Wheeling High School just a couple days ago. So I hope you're ready. The topic is air pollution murder mysteries. You must solve the mystery for the following scenarios, figure out what pollutants could be. Feel free to use anything you deem appropriate to answer the prompt. I'm giving you that leeway. She didn't have that. The first one is, Sally is visiting Lake Tahoe at approximately 6,000 feet and loves being among the conifer trees. They smell so good. It's a bright sunny day and many people are driving around the scenic lake loop. Sally notices a beautiful blue haze filling the valleys. The more Sally runs up and down the trail, the worse Sally's lungs feel. Sally gets an asthma attack. Luckily, a friendly rabbit offers to share its inhaler with Sally. That's the first prompt. Second prompt, Sky has been having trouble with their natural gas heater. It keeps burning through natural gas, but it's not keeping the house as warm as it used to. Sky Dog Ford wakes her up in the night. Ford is freaking out. Sky has a splitting headache. Sky doesn't know it, but oxygen isn't bonding well to their hemoglobin. Ford insists they leave the house. Sky walks into the front yard. As they leave the house, their headache clears. If Ford hadn't woken up, Sky would probably have died. Sky looks at reviews of pollutant detectors and installs one in their home. Ford gets a big steak. Second prompt. So, I have this for you.
Thank you. Bruce Janu?
Hi there, Bruce Janu, librarian, Hersey High School. It seems like there's a lot of confusion among book banners, book censors, novel neglectors. I don't know what to really call them. People have been sending me suggestions, whatever you want to call them, about how high school libraries work. I feel they think that we put these books that they want to remove on display with big neon lights pointing to them, like librarians are those guys that work at the airport, you know, pointing where these books are. And the fact is they sit quietly on the shelves. We as librarians are very in tune to maturity level of students. I did a couple of dozen book book talks this year for freshmen and sophomores and did not pull any of those books. Those books are there just waiting for a student who may be seeking it out because they may need it. That's what libraries are for. And the other thing is that this is a high school district, not elementary, not middle school. We serve students by law up to 22 years old. I had a student at Wheeling High School when I taught American history there who turned 20 in my junior level class. Right now, as of today, roughly 800 students in my building are 17 and older, and that number grows as we move through the year. As a parent myself, I can say that there is not a single book in our libraries that I would prevent my 16-year-old from reading, not a single one. But if there is a parent who had concerns, they could contact the school and make sure their child couldn't check out that book, at least until they're 18, I guess. I don't know. How do you prevent an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old from checking out a book? Most of our students turn 18 in their senior year. Every book may not be for everybody, but there is a book that speaks to each and every person. And we must make sure that their voices and stories are available. That's what we are. We are a collection of diverse stories and experiences. We are a place where people find themselves reflected in those stories and pages, a place where no one is required to read anything they do not want to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have Melissa Kayer.
Thank you for putting the annual comprehensive financial report on d214.org. HarperCollege.edu has their report. SD25.org has their report. Please ask Cook County to add d214.org to the property tax bill. And Arlington Heights Mayor Tom Hayes wants us to pay attention to taxing bodies board meetings. He said this at the joint board meeting with Arlington Heights Memorial Library in the Village of Arlington Heights trustee board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Bauer.
All right, I have two brief items. First of all, I want to call your attention to a matter related to the district website. I have a printout of the relevant pages from D214's and D211's websites regarding a state law requirement that a list of all contracts over $25,000 be posted to the website. D211 complies with a downloadable file. D214 merely provides the total amounts. I would ask that you rectify this and provide me an update as soon as possible. I have printouts, 1 copy for you all, 2 copies for any members of the media if you'd like to reach out to me afterwards. Secondly, in the fall, the board members running for re-election were invited during the public comment to make a commitment to avoiding personal attacks, and you all chose not to do so. You should know, assuming you don't already, that these attacks have started, so I would like to give you another opportunity to oppose this practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the end of the public comments. And now we'll go to the superintendent report.
President Dustling and members of the board, as part of the superintendent's report, I'm reporting on the following Freedom of Information Act requests that were compiled and consistent with school code. Deltic has requested bid information. E. Bauer has requested schedule information, union business information, and personnel information. M. Jankowski has requested financial information and personnel information. T. Burns has requested OSHA information and personnel information. G. Mendez has requested bid information. B. Kim, unionbids.com, has requested bid information. And Melilik of the Illinois Retired Teachers Association has requested personnel information. And J. Chatterton of Local Labs has requested personnel information.
Thank you very much. And now we will have the Learning Renewal Plan update from Dr. Lopez.
Good evening, President Dustling and members of the board. You have in your packets this evening an updated presentation that I provided on several occasions reflecting our Learning Renewal Plan interventions. Our Director of Research, Jeffrey Smith, is here to answer any questions you might have regarding that information. Our first intervention that's identified under our Learning Renewal Plan is the AB Block schedule. And at this time, while there is broad support for its continuation, we believe a 1-year extension to the AB Block pilot is needed to support the permanent adoption of a district-wide block schedule with more than the 3 semesters of data currently available is required. This extension will provide 2 full academic years of data from the pilot, and we would revisit the pilot at the end of the fall semester to inform a final recommendation to the board. We are also recommending reallocating the balance of our federal ESSER funds in FY24 and 25 to support a focus on math academic achievement. And for that reason, I am ceding the majority of my time this evening to our phenomenal math science division heads, who I invite to come forward at this time to present their recommendations. I'd like to introduce you to, as soon as she gets up here, Dawn Francis. It's okay, take your time. She serves as the division head for math and science at Hersey High School, as well as the district level leadership coordinator for the team. And I'll let her introduce the rest of our math science division heads. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Arndt, Dr. Lopez, President Dustling, and members of the board. Like Laz said, I'm Dawn Francis. I'm the Math Science Division Head at Hersey High School, and I am currently the district leadership team coordinator for Math and Science. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to our team. We have with us tonight, and some of them are, would you guys stand, would you mind? Dr. Angel Johnson from Buffalo Grove, Mary Kemp from Elk Grove, Julianne Evans, Prospect, Joni Gallagher, Rolling Meadows, and Bruce French from Wheeling. We truly appreciate this opportunity to present our mathematics improvement proposal to you tonight. Over the past 5 months, we have engaged as a team with Dr. Lopez to address concerns regarding math performance on the state assessment. This evening, we are proud to share the key components that we will implement to remediate and accelerate student learning in mathematics in District 214.
So echoing what Dawn said, the program that we've developed and are sharing with you today is designed to and will improve growth in terms of the SAT math section and overall improvement in our students' performance in their math classes. This program is set up to improve and increase all students' mathematical skill acquisition. Mastery for that will be measured by SAT growth and their benchmarks. We will also have, this program will also be set up to provide an equitable and culturally relevant math experience for all students. And through this, we will also improve and further implement engaging and effective instructional strategies. Let me provide a little context to you, as context will not only explain where we are, but how we got here and why this program is needed and why we've done what we have. As a math and science DLT, we analyzed the D214, PSAT, and SAT data, not only by building, but district-wide. We did this to identify both the strengths and areas of growth. As a reminder, the SAT was first introduced to our state and our state tests in 2017. It remained a constant through the pandemic and is still being used by the state and our schools today. In conjunction with studying our own data, we connected with other math chairs through the North Suburban Math Council. This is something that we're all a part of. We conducted interviews and also participated in site visits with schools who are implementing successful and sustainable intervention programs. 3 common themes came about while we were doing our research. Those common themes were opt-in intervention programs, the idea of a common math experience that is paired with academic interventions, and small group instruction focused on remediation. Through these common themes, there was a distinct connection to a reduction in students earning Ds and Fs in Algebra 1. You might say, like, why is Algebra 1 so important? Success in Algebra 1 is essential to a large portion of topics on the SAT. The heart of algebra and problem solving consists of 60 to 70% of the math portion. Not only that, but SAT sets up a student's foundation in mathematics for their entire 4-year career and beyond. The interventions that we will be implementing meet our goals through a variety of different avenues. Our comprehensive plan includes work that is already being implemented in the areas of SAT work, entry points, course numbers, and professional development. In addition to those interventions, we have developed the AIM program. AIM stands for Academic Interventions in Mathematics. Mary's going to talk about that more in a couple slides, but before we do that, we're math and science people, we're going to talk about some data. So you can see here we have some information from the National Assessment of Educational Progress. This was from their update. You might also know this as the nation's report card, which is a congressionally mandated program that is administered through the National Center of Education Statistics. Essentially the U.S. Department of Education, right? So this report card lets the nation know how students are performing academically. If you look at the left side of the slide there, you're going to notice the 8th grade NAEP scores are showing that there are 26% of our 8th graders proficient in mathematics. It may be a little shocking, that is also a recent decline. Not only that, but the nation's report card has stated that 2 decades of growth has been wiped out by 2 years of the pandemic. Not only for all of our students, but specifically our lower performing students in mathematics are sliding at a greater rate, broadening the achievement gap. That's the nation. We're here at 214. So if we bring this down a little more local, you'll see here we have information from our D214 students in their PSAT 8, PSAT 10, and SAT. This is for the class of 2020 all the way through the class of 2026. If I can explain the chart for you just a little bit. If we're looking at the bottom row, the class of 2020, and we're all the way on the left side, you're going to see that 36% of the students on their PSAT 8 scored in the level band 1, in that red band. That red band stands for 6th grade or lower math proficiency on their 8th grade test. You'll notice then they took a test again, PSAT 10. 17% of the students are now in that level band. So you're seeing growth there, right? That number is getting smaller. That's the goal. And then by the SAT their junior year, it was at 11%. The goal would be, as you're moving along the chart from left to right along a graduating class, is to get more and more or higher and higher numbers in those SAT green final squares in the level 3, 4, and 5 bands. That's where our students are grade level ready and ready for university or whatever secondary plans they have. The program that we're presenting to you now is needed, and specifically the reason I want you to continue to look at this chart is in the red right in the middle, the class of 2024. When looking at the class of 2024, we can see that 42% of students are entering D214 at a grade 6 math level or below. That number is growing from 2020, and this mirrors what we just saw on the previous slide. While we do not have SAT data for the class of 2024, they just haven't taken it yet, we are noticing a general decline in math performance, and that's why this intervention is needed now. We're not alone. Our numbers mirror what's happening in the nation, but our students need more support.
With the 6 years of data that Julianne just shared in mind, we determined our next steps. Our goal as educators is to help all students learn and achieve at high levels. As math and science division heads, more than half of our focus is specifically on the success of students in mathematics. And we recognize that our most at-risk students need additional support. Our next steps include specifically providing a structured intervention to students in a small group setting and overall executive functioning skills for low-achieving math students implemented by math educators. Also, renumbering our courses to remove the stigma that follows specific coursework. We asked Dan Bacher, District 214's Assistant Director of Research and Evaluation, to provide us with district-wide data to show us the success rates of our students in freshman Algebra 1 courses. The graph's confusing, so I'm going to explain it a little bit over here so that you can make sense of it. So on this graph, each circle represents a student in Algebra 1. The data is pulled from the 6 comprehensive high schools, and it includes data from years 2016 through 2022. The horizontal axis on the graph represents students' PSAT 8 math percentile. This is the test that they take before they arrive to our schools in 8th grade. Notice that there's a large number of students to the left of the 30 percentile. That represents students entering lower than 30%. The vertical axis shows the PSAT 9 math percentile, again ranging from 0 to 100. This represents where students are when they take the PSAT 9 in April their freshman year. Many students do improve, and you'll see that these students are on the top part of the vertical axis, even the ones that started to the left of the 30%. Additionally, many students remain at the bottom. These are students that are not making significant gains and need more support to achieve the gain of their peers. The AIM program targets this problem. AIM stands for Academic Intervention in Mathematics, and it's a program that will support students who enter District 214 in Level 1 per PSAT Math. This means that these students score 400 or below on their PSAT 8 math exam, putting them at a 6th grade or lower level when they enter our high schools. Students in the AIM program will remain in their assigned Algebra 1 class, and in addition, they will receive this intervention during their AIM course. The focus will be to build students' foundational math skills and support them in learning the content of their Algebra 1 course. Students will meet with math teachers during their AIM course to engage in a targeted curriculum. The goal is to both remediate and accelerate. The curriculum will help improve skill deficits that students have and help them make significant progress in their math course. Cohorts of students will meet 10 times per 6-week cycle, which results in an increase of 33% in the number of minutes of math contact time. The AIM program will begin by developing an AIM intervention plan for each student in the program. The plans will be developed by analyzing grades and SAT data for that student. AIM teachers will plan learning experiences that fill identified foundational gaps and respond to students' needs in their coursework. They will deliver course-aligned and SAT-aligned instruction that is differentiated to the needs of the specific students that they're working with. Student data will be monitored and measured to ensure growth. Programs will be modified when necessary. Students in the program will receive differentiated instruction in small group and one-on-one settings. Additional outcomes that will result from this program include the development of meaningful relationships in an educational setting and an increase in students' abilities to goal set, progress monitor, and complete other executive functioning skills. Through the implementation of this program, the student growth expectations that we are wanting to achieve are having 75% of students receiving the AIM intervention move to a level 3 or higher. Again, this is growth occurring from 8th grade PSAT to junior year SAT. And having 90% of students receiving AIM interventions earning an A, B, or C in their Algebra 1 class. This concludes our presentation, and we can now take questions from the board.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming here and doing this. Board members, questions? Ms. Kreitzer?
For the benefit of the audience, could you explain the band? You know, you said 400. Explain, like, where the kids should be when they enter freshman year.
Can you go back to that slide? So if I show the data up here on the screen again, the students in the red band are in grades 6 or lower. Students in the orange band are performing at grade between 7 and 9. So ideally, students would be at the high end of the orange band when they're entering in District 214. Now, we can't control where they enter when they come to us, but we can control what we do with them. And so what our goal is to help those students entering in level 1 achieve higher by providing this additional intervention.
So you gave data from 2016 to 22, I believe. So pre-2016, was it the same? Do you have?
I'm not sure if I'm going to answer exactly what you're looking for, but before the SAT started in 2017, so we do have different data, but it would have been ACT data, which is not it's not apples to apples. So we have all of our data surrounding the recent SAT work.
Okay, but historically speaking, have you seen our students come in at the level that you're showing?
I think what we're seeing is that they're coming. The larger number in level 1 is growing. Okay. So does that answer? Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Palmer?
To follow up on Ms. Kreitzer, are we sharing any of this work and our strategies with our sender districts, and are we coordinating with the sender districts?
Absolutely. So we work with all of our sender districts all the time when we get our new 8th graders. I would guarantee that all of us have just recently met with all of the teams of teachers from our sender schools, and we're meeting with them regularly to talk about how can we have our students be best prepared to come in our doors, and the sender schools are really devoted to that as well. So that's an ongoing conversation as this program develops. That's certainly one of the steps is we're going to inform those schools this is something new that we're going to try if we are allowed to do so, and that's when we will definitely, maybe who knows, maybe that's something that they'll adopt as well, and we'll see our students coming in at higher levels. That's obviously the goal, and then hopefully we see our great achievement again.
So as a follow-up to that, Do you envision that this will be a course that students get identified as needing, or will it take a class period? Could you speak to that again? Like, how are we getting students into this program, and what does the program itself look like on sort of a day-to-day basis?
Mary, do you want to? Sure.
So the students are identified, and when we meet with the sender schools now, we utilize the students' PSAT scores, and we have conversations about every student. We talk about their strengths and weaknesses. We get some ideas of who we're getting before they come in. So we would be able to identify who the students are that would be receiving this intervention. There could be additional kids. We have lots of students that aren't registered yet, and we have lots of students that move to our area. And so there could be kids that we don't know about yet, but we'd have room for them. The way the program would run is it would be in a small group setting. So we'd be looking for a 4-to-1 ratio of student to teacher, and they would rotate through. And so they wouldn't meet every single day. They would have their normal math class still. And this would be an additional support outside of that.
I just want to add something. I just want to add something. So at the university level, we've implemented something similar, a co-requisite model. So instead of placing students in remedial coursework, they're placing students in college-level math class and then assigning them to a co-requisite math course where a similar practice is utilized to ensure the student is successful in their regular math class and ensuring that they're being remediated as they go along.
And so when during the day would they have this? Would it be a pullout? Would it be?
Assuming that we're staying on the block schedule, it would be during half of their study hall block. So all students in 214 have a study hall block, and so that's when it would occur.
Okay, and if a parent does not want their child, for whatever reason in this, they can opt out or say no, or
of course,
not my child?
A parent could opt out, and kids could accelerate quickly and no longer need the intervention also.
And so there'll be a constant looking at them to see how are they doing, et cetera?
Julianne mentioned using benchmark testing frequently to see growth and conversations with the math teachers.
And I know that when there were federal funds available, and this has been something I've been asking for the past, I guess, 3 years now, is what's our plan when the free federal money that came in a glut runs out, and how are we paying for things?
Yeah, so I would say, so first, we're very fortunate that we do have ESSER funding, and we have enough ESSER funding in order to really reallocate our resources now to fund the next 2 years of this program. Now, our hope is that that the world and our students, that we live in this post-pandemic world and we recover, and that students start to feel better, and that the learning both in K-8 and as we see the pandemic further and further behind us, that we see a more traditional student that's coming to us. So our hope is that we have significant gains over the next 2 years. That being said, we do have a significant number of math teachers that are going to be retiring in the next couple of years. So as we hire these teachers in order to deliver these programs, we're going to be able to absorb them over the next 2 to 3 years. And then at the end of the funding stream, which would be in the 26 fiscal year, we would need to reassess to what extent do we still need this program. Right now, we anticipate 800 to 1,000 students in it. Is that number still that great, or has it been reduced? We may have to do offsets in order to maintain this specific program. But we are fortunate right now that we can afford to do it, in part because of the federal funding.
And thank you. I have my last question. So when you were introducing the group, you're from a variety of, or all of our schools.
Yes.
I'm assuming you're going to be continuing to meet over time to say what's working in specific buildings and to share stories on how that's going?
Sure. We actually gave a more truncated version of the presentation today, so we have an entire 5-year outline, which does include reflection at the end of each year to reflect and adjust as needed.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Ms. Petro.
I have a little bit different question because Millie asked all of mine. All right, so we know we have students that are coming through, and we're getting prepared for them to meet their needs. And I applaud you for that you're looking ahead. And I know that it's difficult to address the needs of students that are not in our buildings yet. But we have summer school. Can we send out to these students in our sender districts and say, hey, you really need this program, we'd like to help you, and see if we could get some of these students in here to get them a jump start so that they're not so far behind when they come in?
I'm actually the Bridge to Math administrator for summer school, so I can speak to that directly. We do offer a bridge program for students that are entering kind of on the low end of the band where their peers are. It is an opt-in program, and so that has historically been kind of the barrier. There are students that can't attend summer school. They watch their siblings. They go to Mexico for the whole summer. You know, who knows what it is. They do athletics, and they can't participate. And so we allow them to still enroll in the Algebra 1 class, the class that they're supposed to be in. So that is the kids we're targeting. I think it is likely, potentially, that kids would take advantage of the summer school and maybe not need the intervention. And so, you know, we would look at that. I thankfully have my foot right in that door.
Anybody else? Yes.
So, Dr. Lopez, not to put you on the spot, but
No, go ahead.
I know that there's some collaboration with the sender districts.
Yes.
Really digging into, rather than just talking about it, there's an action plan in place.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate to talk about that now?
Yeah, certainly. So we've begun our engagement with our sender districts and developed sort of a leadership team in order to look at our K through 12 system and ensure that there's significant collaboration and cooperation among both our communication with families, coordination of programming, that they can participate in our programming. You're familiar with a lot of the middle school outreach programs that occur, for example, in the Wheeling community and also at Buffalo Grove for our engineering programs. All of those, making sure that we're communicating, that we are on the same page, that our principals and the principals of our sender schools are meeting regularly in order to really address this once-in-a-lifetime crisis that we're in related to the academic decline that we've experienced in the last couple of years.
It's across all academics, not just math and science, correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you for making that clear.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Ms. Rauch?
First of all, thank you, Math and Science Division heads. Really appreciate you coming, appreciate the data. I do have a few questions. First of all, I'm glad to hear it sounds like these students, so if we're sticking with the block schedule. Every day or every other day, they'll have their double block math, and then essentially in between, they'll have a single period math. So ultimately,
Their math, every day they would have a single period math class. So Algebra 1 that we offer in our buildings is a single period. And on the alternate day, they would have this intervention. So ultimately, they'd be having math every day, some sort of math.
The single period, she means a full block, like a full.
80 minutes, yes. 80 minutes, let me quantify. 80 minutes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 40 minutes Tuesday, Thursday, flip it the next day. Thank you. Okay, panic me there for a second. I'm sure Dr. Lopez saw my face there. Okay, so I think that's really good. I want to look at the data. You have up on the screen there. So in 2020, now granted, that was incoming freshmen were 2016, so we really didn't, did we or did we not have SAT data for that? Because they started in 2017, or what did we do?
We didn't have SAT data for them incoming.
Okay, so where's the 36% from, may I ask? Right, 4 years?
Oh, for 2020, we did.
Class of 2020 does have all.
Yeah, we did, this is correct.
Oh, you meant prior to
SAT,
that.
sorry. Yes.
Although that first year, the 2016, the 8th graders took it out of sequence. They took it in actually, they actually took it out of sequence because I don't know, that's when we gave a retired test, not an official test.
Okay.
They hadn't released.
Because these are by graduating class, if I understand correctly, right? so you understand my question there, right?
PSAT 8, yeah.
PSAT 8, okay. And so they were around 36%. I am curious, and this is just speculation here, when we go from 24, obviously, there was an increase in that first band there, and then we dropped down, and these students took it in the fall. This is kind of piggybacks to Mr. Petro's comment here. They took it in the fall. They were barely there for a few months, I'm guessing, and yet we see a slight decrease. What would be your speculation for that? I mean, it's still comparable to the 36, and I'm not saying we don't have a concern, but I'm curious, did anyone notice, did they have more that attended the Bridge program? I was trying to support that. Maybe that's somewhere.
The red numbers?
Looking at going from 2024 to 2025, we went from 42% to 38%. We decreased by 4%, and they took it in the fall. Are we thinking?
All of their 8th grade year.
Ninth grade.
Ninth grade.
Ninth grade. So they were already in, almost having that Algebra 1 possibly, or whatever math. Are we thinking that that's what helped them?
Yeah, so we're thinking, so in 2024, in the red were the 42, those took the PSAT 8 in the fall of 8th grade year. The class of 2025 took the PSAT 8 in the fall of their freshman year.
Ninth grade,
so
right.
they've had another almost whole year of math exposure before taking that test.
Okay, which further supports the fact that
Which is, I think, why they're off a little bit. Yeah.
Sure, okay, and you had mentioned the 2 decades of growth wiped out by the 2 years, so that following suit there. Okay, in addition to this AIM program, what other options did you evaluate?
I can talk to them.
So we were pretty open-minded at the beginning. We did look at double block math. We looked at opt-in double block math. We looked at programs that could run before school or after school or during lunch. One of our goals was we wanted our students to be able to access all the things that our high schools offer. And so by reducing their opportunity to maybe do extracurricular activities, if they had to go to additional math, that would be negative. They're all freshmen. They don't drive. They take the bus. So before school would be a huge barrier. There's a stigma that comes with a double block math. And so we want them to be able to be in the regular Algebra 1 that their classmates are in. And then they just receive this additional support. Lastly, many of our students take advantage of the free and reduced lunch. And so if we were to take part of their lunch block, they wouldn't have the opportunity to do that. So we were looking for a way to offer support, but without limiting what they can access in our high schools.
I really appreciate that. I mean, it's hard enough to teach the subject and to take into consideration, and I look at all the district heads in this room, the student as a whole, the emotional, the social, the academic well-being, so thank you. Final question, if we for some reason have to pivot again to the 8 period. Thoughts?
Sure. The program absolutely can and still work regardless of the schedule. So if we do have to revert to a straight 8, obviously a student will still have their math class as one of those 8 every single day. And we would have a rotating schedule. So they may not have the AIM course intervention also every single day, but they would be on a rotating schedule and matching very similar to that 33% extra contact time with math.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you again for all of your help and attention to this. Good luck.
Can I ask one last question?
Yes.
Dr. Lopez, just to circle back. So the sender districts, I know we have that collaborative approach. Is it consistent across all sender districts, or do we still have some work to do to pool everybody together?
I will tell you that we are still working to engage all of our sender districts. So we've had a lot going on recently, and we have a full engagement with 2 of our districts, and then we have to initiate the regular calendar schedule with the remaining ones. We communicate and engage with all of them. I meet with all of my associate superintendent counterparts monthly, and we talk about all these subjects. At our division head level, all of them meet as well. But what we're really talking about is sort of another sort of layer of leadership, including principals, so that we really coordinate our efforts, K-12.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Ms. Palmer?
I have one follow-up. Dr. Lopez, and I know this is going to put you on a spot a little bit.
Okay.
I love seeing that we're identifying where kids are struggling.
Yes.
But it dawned on me as I'm listening to this that probably all the kids coming in are not where they would have been had they had additional time, et cetera, right? So that sinking water affected all boats, right?
Right.
So do we have things in place for kids who just want to or feel like, hey, I should be at a higher level. I'd like to excel more on a math, English, whatever. Not just helping the kids who come in
Correct.
peril, but to help the kids who come in not in peril to get to where they want to be.
Here's the way I would respond to that. Particularly in our higher levels, we saw an initial drop-off in some of our access to early college opportunities, but we've fully rebounded. I think we're going to have 5,000 students enrolled in early college credit courses, dual credit. Those are students that have to meet the benchmarks in order to access college algebra, college calc, AP Calc, AB and BC. So we are still maintaining sort of that higher level of students. I feel like our students in the higher bands recovered quicker than our students typically who are within the lower bands had complicating factors, and it wasn't just one thing. And so part of that is they're also more likely to have an identified disability, or more likely to be an English language learner, or more likely to be a student of poverty. Where when we controlled for those specific factors, those students have recovered fairly quickly and have rebounded for the most part. You're welcome.
Other questions or comments by board members?
No, thank you, Ms. Palmer, reminding me to ask one more. As there are still currently in most of the schools, and I'm familiar with at least 2 or 3 of them, that you have tutoring during lunch periods anyway. So if I am a student in one of those classes that Ms. Palmer said, I could still, there are plenty of opportunities. Our staff is more than happy, and we have lots of hands on deck.
We have full service, one-on-one tutoring services by both teachers and peer tutors, which sometimes, to be honest with you, as a peer tutor, that does more to help you as a tutor as it does the students that you're helping, because it forces you to really learn what it is you're trying to explain. I mean, it's a phenomenal experience. Yes, absolutely.
Any other comments, questions?
Thank you.
I want to thank you for all your efforts. You're the wizards when it comes to this, and that's what we rely on. Obviously, you and Dr. Lopez have to work out where we're at. The COVID pandemic was terrible. And this is not an excuse. I think we're seeing the same thing nationally.
We are.
And seeing the same thing in other districts. I would hope they're focusing like you are and coming up with plans that have some substance and certainly sustainability. But thank you. Thank you very much.
No, and I thank them too. They've done a wonderful job. So I applaud them and the work that they did. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we are at the Superintendent Search Update, Leadership Profile Report from Hazard, Young and Attia and Associates. And here we have Brian Harris. Oh, and Connie, how are you? Good. Good to see you.
Okay, here we go. Okay, this is forward, right? Oop. There we go.
Okay, good evening. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. Thanks to all of the board members. We had an opportunity to speak with each of you individually, as well as community members and staff, and it's been a real pleasure to get through this first phase of the process. So as we begin sharing with you the first part of the process in looking for the superintendent is the engagement phase. So we met with each of you individually. We also had an opportunity to meet with internal and external stakeholders and with students And students, it was a real joy to have conversations with them and to hear what they had to say and where they believe we are. The engage phase is the first phase in this process. After we complete this, then we move forward and we're recruiting candidates. We've already started recruiting, but we really have a hard press with the recruitment process. The engage phase consists of information from the individual meetings that we had, as well as the forums. We had 4 forums. 2 of them were virtual, 2 were in-person forums. We also had an opportunity to meet with focus groups, and we have the survey, which was completed, and we'll talk more about all of those as we proceed. We gather all of that information, and we create a leadership profile report. And it really tells the story of what the stakeholders say they're looking for in the next superintendent. There is a broad spectrum of data collection. We had, when we take a look at the qualitative data, we met with 25 focus groups. As I indicated, 4 open forums and 13 individual interviews. Those were comprised of 214 stakeholders. There was a depth and breadth of engagement with all of the stakeholders. We stayed and listened to whatever it is that they wanted to share with us. We also gave them our telephone numbers as well as our email addresses, so if people wanted to contact us that way, they were able to do so. They were highly interactive meetings, and so people were encouraged to speak from the heart, let us know what was on their mind and how they were feeling about the current state of the district and what they would like to see moving forward. Quantitative data, there were 2,675 survey responses. So thanks to those who went online to complete the survey. Of those responses, 1,270 were parents, 567 were students, 438 were certified staff, 166 support staff, 145 community members, and 89 administrators. So those are the individuals that we heard from as we were gathering data.
As Connie indicated, we collected both quantitative and qualitative data, and I'm going to start here and walk through some of the key highlights that was gathered in that data. All board members have copies of the survey report, which I'm going to reference here first. You also have a copy of the qualitative report, which I'll reference here second as we walk through this. We encourage you to post this on your website tomorrow, so the community and all the stakeholders have the opportunity to review both of those reports and the desired characteristics as well. So starting with the survey, and this was some of the key findings, and we're doing an executive level summary here. There's certainly more information in there, but I'm going to highlight a few things. The strengths of the district, and these were, significantly pointed out. Clearly, technology, has been a strength. The board and the district has put significant amount of resources, time, and effort to kids have access to technology, and staff does too, and that came through in the survey. The facilities are well maintained. Clearly there was, and the schools are safe. That was also, clear in the survey data by the stakeholders. And finally, there was, again, also indicated they were very happy with the teachers, with the employees, with the administrators, and all the staff working with kids. So those were some of the strengths that were clearly identified in all of the different stakeholder groups in the survey as being strengths of the district. The next part of the survey itself also focused on characteristics for the next superintendent. And I want to point out a couple of these in particular. These were the top 5 that were listed. But the first one, foster a positive professional climate of mutual trust and respect among faculty, staff, and administrators. Every single group, there were 6 different groups identified in the survey. They all had this as their number one item. It was clearly an outlier, and it was a significant characteristic characteristic for the next superintendent. That is certainly something that Connie and I will be vetting out, and I encourage you as the board, when you interview, that's a key aspect for the next person to have as they come on board in 214. Another key, item, and it kind of goes consistently with what you just heard here, was establish a culture of high expectations for all students and staff. And you will find that out here in a minute on the qualitative side as well as a consistent characteristic. Provide transparent communication. There was also a very close number 6 there, and that was to be visible. They basically want to make sure their superintendent is visible in their schools, in the district, access from community members as well. And so that was a clear characteristic that the survey indicated in the results. Finally, and we're going to hear more about this in just a minute, was to understand and be sensitive to the needs of diverse student population. I'm going to talk more about that when we were able to drill down a little further into that, into some of the conversations we had in the qualitative data. Now I'm going to shift and focus on that report. This is the summary of the data that Connie and I collected as we did a lot of listening to a lot of people, all key stakeholders, lots of interviews, lots of small group conversations. Individuals reached out to us. We had a lot of separate emails, as she referenced, a couple texts and phone calls and requests for individual conversations, which was great. We offered it, and a lot of people took us up on it, and which was great. So all of the comments here in that report, and what I'm going to highlight here now as part of the qualitative data. Now, these were indicated when we saw it multiple times. One-off, suggestions or comments, they didn't rise to that level. These were where we saw themes. This is where it was consistent across conversations with different stakeholders from different groups. So on the first slide here, I want to focus on a couple things. There was clearly, and I'm not going to read all these to you, but there's a theme here on a couple of these, or 2 or 3 of them, that shows that they were very, very happy, stakeholders, with the current programs and offerings for students. Okay, that includes everything, the academic programs, the extracurricular programs, career pathways, all of the different opportunities and supports that you provide for students. It was much appreciated and identified in different ways. There was also an item, and I've got the 5th bullet down there, it talked about a supporting, engaged community and local government collaboration and support for schools. We had conversations with a lot of your intergovernmental partners and the partnerships you have with colleges and universities and with feeder districts. That's the group that we're talking about there. There was a clear strength in the partnerships that you've established with all of those organizations, and certainly wants to see it continue. Okay, so that was another highlighted part of that. And again, you will also see here, and diversity sits on both sides of this, right? You do have a significantly diverse student population, community population. It is a strength on one hand, but it's also a challenge. And there was a lot of comments on both sides of this, almost from every single group we talked to, where it's seen as a strength and opportunities for kids, but it's also challenges to make sure you have the right supports and interventions and different types of programs available for those families and students as well. Moving on, the second slide here was strengths. Again, there was a clear understanding that facilities were well maintained, they're safe. There was also a consistent theme of fiscal responsibility. Stakeholders indicated that the district is in great shape financially, and they wanted to keep it that way. That there's a strong tax base, they recognize that, and to make sure to continue to work on and move forward with innovative programs and opportunities for kids. That's why people move here. There was a real theme too there about it's a destination district for staff, it is for students, it is for families, and they move here because of the great schools. And so certainly that was a consistent theme that was there in those conversations. The second question we ask every single group about challenges. No places, no organization's perfect. Everybody's got opportunities to improve and do better. So there was definitely themes that were identified here on challenges. I want to highlight again a few of those. One of them is just addressing the societal changes and political climate to manage those changes. I mean, that's not going away anytime soon. I think the board knows that, staff knows it, community recognizes it. There's differences opinions on a lot of things right now, and public schools tend to be a flashpoint for that. So these come up many times in some of the conversations we've had. It's just this, it's a challenge, and it's probably going to be with us for a while. And so it certainly came up as a opportunity to continue to move forward in a good way. Transparent communication was also, talked about a lot. And this was even from a department and building level. Social media seemed to be an opportunity there that isn't always leveraged enough. A lot of people use it, especially when the kids said it. That came up in some of our student conversations about that. That's where they live. A lot of them are on their phones. You all know that. And so they just said, well, we don't really know that much about the district because we're, that's their avenue. That's where they look at. I remember one particular group talking with me about that. And also not always understanding the full opportunity of what programs, on-ramps and off-ramps was a concern that came through in a lot of those conversations, and that in relation to some of the career pathways and opportunities there for kids to maybe change their mind when they're a sophomore or a junior in high school. So it's a challenge. Don't have the solutions, it just came up in the conversations. There was also a theme about the 7 different schools, the 6 main sites, and then the alternative schools being on islands, and at times not a very collaborative effort. I don't know what, they didn't get into details, but it did come up in some of the conversations. So it's an opportunity to look and build a healthier climate in that regard. Transportation access and availability, this came directly from the students. This was a theme of every student group we talked with, that they did not feel like they had the appropriate access to participate in before school, after school stuff. And it was a challenge for them, and they voiced it. Every single group mentioned that. So again, I don't know we didn't ask the details other than they all brought it up. So that one in particular came from the students, so we thought it was worthy of mentioning here. And finally, the last piece here on this slide has to do with the refocusing on academic expectations. There was a lot of conversation about just the core focus on math, literacy, science, social studies, some of the core subjects, and at times it appeared had taken a back seat and not always remained a priority in some circumstances. So again, I'm summarizing kind of the comments here. You see the detailed that we wrote down related to that. Finally, the slide on challenges. Again, you see a reference to the block schedule here. I know that came up with the students a lot, came up with staff when we talked to some of them, just some of the concerns and focuses and challenges around that. They hope that a decision is made soon. That's what one student said to me in particular. So just tell us what we have to do so we can make decisions and adjust. That's what she said. One young lady said that to me. Meeting the social emotional needs of kids also was a constant theme, pretty much from all stakeholders. Everybody recognizes that. It's not, it takes a long time to recover from, such a disruption in our schools and our communities, and I think you just heard that this evening. And I think that brings on anxiety, it brings on stress, it brings on all those things that goes along with that. There was also, there was comments about high property tax bills. There was some comments about and transparency and making sure that the board and the superintendent are clear on how they use the funds to support kids. And again, there was not a lot of context around that, but it did come up periodically in conversations. Finally, there was a concern that was, and this came primarily more from internal, from staff, and some of our conversations. It was around district office turnover, gaps in the system. There was specific references to the EL program and special education. Just felt like there's a gap in leadership, not naming individuals individually. It was just a concern that if we're going to do better, we have to have a refocus in those particular areas. And certainly we're aware of, there's some opportunities there. So that kind of concludes the challenges that were noted in the conversations we had.
Immediate and future priorities. Here again, I think you're going to hear a lot of what you've already heard, both from the survey as well as from the meetings that we had. So One, and these are in no particular order, so they're just as we heard them, and these are the ones that were listed most often. There were others that we heard, but we looked at which are the ones that are recurring themes, and so that's what we have here. Creating a renewed district vision, mission, and strategic priorities. Here again, we know that hiring staff is really important, and we know that there's been a shortage in some areas, since post-COVID, so that's something that is a concern, and I think there are some vacant positions here within the district, and people are concerned about those. Renewed focus on academic rigor goes right along with the other areas we heard in the survey, as well as from the groups. Addressing students' social and emotional needs, that came up a lot from a number of people, that students are dealing with a lot, even staff is dealing with a lot on a social and emotional level, and that something needs to be done about that. Continuing to address diversity in the district, providing transparent communication, and as Brian indicated, this is something that was repeated a number of times, the need for transparent communication. And the EL programs, as well as looking at a long-term master facility plan. The next slide, desired characteristics of the next superintendent. As we took a look at everything that was identified in the survey, as well as from the focus groups, the forum, and all of the meetings that we had, they identified the following, and these were the most prevalent. Have someone who's confident, yet humble. Someone, it was mentioned, a fresh face to the district who can lead change, visible, approachable, and relatable through involvement. They want someone who's an active presence, not only in central office, not only in the community, but also in the schools. Veteran superintendent, high school leadership experience, former teacher. A successful record of diversity initiatives. Demonstrate leadership that's dynamic, principled, respected, and trusted. An extraordinary communicator, and communication came up quite a few times. So wanting someone who's able to communicate both internally as well as externally and represents the district well through their communication style. Prior success with staff, students, and the community. Other desired characteristics. Someone who's a skilled and positive manager, who leads collaboratively. They don't want someone who's a lone ranger, but someone who seeks the expertise and the experience of others within the district. Be the public face of the schools and advocate for teachers and students. Have a clear vision which puts students at the center of the work that's to be done. Devoted to students' academic and personal growth, genuinely likes people, is deeply caring, authentically passionate about students. Strong and confident to deal with conflict and make tough decisions. Trustworthy, visible, and approachable. So the word visible, as we said, came up a number of times on a number of fronts. Brian?
So our final slide here. So what Connie and I are going to be doing here very, very shortly. We've already started, but after tonight, we have these documents that we're going to be sharing with potential candidates. A lot of people we have talked with thus far, they want to see this information. We haven't shared it. It's your document, and then after tonight, we will be able to use this. We'll have you also saw a copy of the standalone document with the desired characteristics. We will be posting that on the HYA website, as well as forwarding it to many potential candidates who are waiting for that information. So we will be doing that using all of this information that we've gathered in a formal way, and clarifying and having conversations around that, and encouraging those superintendent candidates to apply. We will review all applications, screen and interview candidates as needed and necessary. We will do as many on the resume and off the resume many background checks that we can. Connie and I are very good at that and finding, information out that we need to make sure that we put the right people in front of you here in the next several weeks. We will present a slate of candidates to the board in 2 weeks. That is a closed session meeting. It's personnel. And the board then will have the opportunity to interview who they select to interview from the information we provide you. Then the board will interview those candidates tentatively. You'll set those schedules early March, I know, as in the plan, and then final interviews sometime in mid to late March as well. Then we have a spring break in there where everybody does different things, including the candidates, so we'll have to work around that a little bit and hopefully have the candidate identified for your approval at a time in March, so early, mid-March, or I'm sorry, April, early to mid-April. So without any further information from us, what questions can we answer for you about anything we presented, any clarifications, or any next steps?
Obviously, you know what you're doing. Been around for a while, runs many superintendents. I want to make sure that the background checks we have are extensive and deep and far-reaching. Don't want any surprises.
We don't, and you don't.
Don't want any front-page surprises. Couldn't handle it. So, we've got the information on the leadership profile. Thank you very much. Next, we'll see you on the 23rd when you present the list of candidates.
For your consideration, correct. And remember, board members, all this information's on the board portal. You'll have access to those candidates once we get to that point as well, just as a reminder. Okay?
Well, this report we're going to put on to the 214 with the slide.
Absolutely. You got the slide deck as well as the 3 documents that were included as part of this.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. All right.
Woo-hoo. Okay, we're now at the consent item. We have 8.1, approval of accounts payable, 8.2, approval of personal transaction report, point 3, approval to dispose of closed session and audio recordings, 8.4, approval of graduation audio services and equipment, and approval of bids for Wheeling and Rolling Meadows capital improvements. Can I have a motion?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Walker.
Yes.
Aye.
Heineman.
Aye.
Palmer.
Aye.
Petro.
Aye.
Rauch.
Aye.
And Dessling.
Yes. Now we have action items. We have 2 of them. 9.1 is approval of a contract for legislative and/or legal services. Do you have comments to make, Superintendent Arndt, before we make a motion?
Yes, I do. We met last Thursday, in fact, regarding this very special initiative. And since then, the superintendents of District 15 and 211 and I, along with our mutual attorney, have been meeting every single day. Every single day on this issue. We have interviewed 8 potential lobbyists. We are going to narrow the field down tomorrow. We are also going to be meeting our local representatives, and our attorney is in the audience right now, so if the board has any additional questions, I would recommend that you ask now before the vote is taken.
Let me have a motion, please, on the approval of the contract for legislative and/or legal services.
So moved. Second.
Okay.
Discussion.
We're at the point, we don't actually have the lobbyist name yet, but we are going forward with a contract for legal and/or legal services. So, Harris, maybe you could give us a little bit of information and maybe answer some questions.
Absolutely, Mr. Dessling. Thanks very much, Aristotelianis. So, as Dr. Arndt said, on Tuesday and Wednesday, we had done a first-round screening interviews with 8 really high-level firms, ranging from kind of 1- and 2-person operations to boutique 6 to 10 lobbyist firms to, say, like a larger law firm that has a lobbying division. I would say that was sort of the three categories. From that, there were really three pretty obvious strong contenders. They're going to be further screened coming up soon, and with the hope of having won and being confident that they will be able to help the districts navigate this process. And that navigation really requires, having a good understanding and relationships in the General Assembly and with the Governor's office, having a good handle on Illinois public school finance and different types of economic development incentives, and then also, fully understanding and being able to talk about and communicate on what this thing is. This is really a potential 40-year economic development incentive. It will be imposing a burden on the taxpayers of Elk Grove, Wheeling, Palatine, and Schaumburg Township in a meaningful way for a 40-year period for the benefit of constructing a privately owned NFL football stadium. It's the only way to put it. That's what we're talking about here. And you're fortunate to have Dr. Arndt, because he was sort of a first-hand witness to how these kinds of incentives can go wrong. That Sears EDA that had a very adverse impact on the schools in that area. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen here, that we've got the right people in place to fully address this legislation. It was introduced on Monday by Senator Gillespie. It's Senate Bill 1350. She introduced sort of a companion bill, Senate Bill 1391, which would provide quite a bit of reform in the area of tax increment financing. As I mentioned to you last week, it is highly likely that if this were to go forward, that a portion of the area would have the mega project designation. The other portion would be a very significant TIF district. So you'd really be frozen out of any growth in the tax base on this 320-acre parcel for 23 years on the TIF and probably 40 years on the mega project. So it's a big deal. We want to be prepared. The Bears have had this property under contract since late 2021, 15 months, 16 months. We've had the legislation now for 15 days, so we have been engaged on a daily basis, learning more, providing comprehensive information to Dr. Arndt, Dr. Lopez, summarizing things, and building a team. So happy to answer any additional questions above and beyond that. Yes?
So we're kind of lockstep with District 15 and 211, is that right?
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Board members, questions?
You know me.
Yes.
So you heard earlier in our superintendent search, we're basically looking for a superhero. What are the characteristics we're looking for in a lobbyist?
Yeah, so I would say a sterling reputation, somebody who is respected sort of on both sides of the aisle, someone and a team. It's not a one. What we've learned is you can't really be a one in this space, that there's too much ground to cover, and what we have observed is the teams that have so far presented the most impressive presentations have been teams. And, one of those aspects is experience with the General Assembly and the Governor's office, either through, working on staff or just being in that space for a long time. The General Assembly is constituted. There are many caucuses that are important, the Black Caucus, Latino Caucus, downstate, making sure that there are relationships in those spaces too. Having a good handle on how school districts are financed, understanding PTEL, being involved in prior incentive type of programs that have gone on in the state. I mean, this is obviously in a league of its own. It'd be unprecedented, but there are other incentives run by different state agencies that are important. Those, I would say, are really the key components.
So as a follow-up, will we be splitting costs amongst 211, 215? Will the three districts split the cost? Have we come up with a cost-sharing agreement, and do we have an estimation of what those costs look like?
Yes. So the costs are being shared for the time. There's no written agreement. It's a one-third sharing, sort of informal agreement. We can certainly put that in writing, but the understanding currently is it's one-third, one-third, one-third. The costs, from what we've seen, I would say the range, the way lobbyists work is they charge on a monthly basis for the duration of the work they're doing. So right now, we're looking at sort of right now, February through probably June. So that'd be a 5-month term. And I would say the range of fees that are quoted is between, say, $7,000 and $11,000 a month, divided by 3, obviously. So your share would be 1/3 of 7 to 1/3 of 11.
Okay. So I know we're looking for a lobbyist. Have we been looking at any of the other avenues to get a seat at the table? We talked last time about a variety of things, like what is a base year? And I realize that's part of the legislative end, but also looking at things along that line. So what else are we doing?
Yeah, let me give you a good example. So we've been working since really before the legislation came out, because it was germane at the time and is more germane now, is with a land planner and someone who's able to look at some of the information we have and estimate the number of housing units that will come from the development as proposed. Are they going to be single-family, townhome, row home, condo, apartment buildings? How many floors? So we have gotten a pretty good idea on that, and actually have a meeting tomorrow with the planner for the initial presentation of data. So that's going to be huge, just to estimate EAV, and frankly, that's going to be super relevant for, like, what should the special payment be, things like that. So that's one expert that we're talking to, and there may be a need for someone in the communication space too. Obviously, your district, 211-15, have very strong people on the communication front, and that will be a factor. I mean, you're fortunate, it's sort of the right person at the right time at the right place is Patrick Moggy. He's been super helpful with his background in Springfield as well. So he's really been invaluable in this process.
So, we talked a lot last time about getting a seat at the table. Are we also compiling a list of other things other than money that would be helpful for the district as we move forward? For example, we have approximately 12,000 students. We have a career pathways program. Those pathways range from things like medical things to communication things, et cetera. It strikes me that the Bears organization would love to have interns. And there's things along those lines that we could ask for.
You're absolutely right, and I would say that we are in the process of developing. So if you remember my slides from last week, the summary page kind of was the high level, I described it,
yes.
High level concerns. We're going to be adding to the list, and that's a great addition, absolutely.
Okay. And lastly for me is, how are things going with communications with the village of Arlington Heights?
I would say it's on 2 levels. So there was a call today that Dr. Arndt was participating in with the other superintendents, and I think the village manager. There's been a lot of communication. I've certainly had a lot of communication with the lawyers for Churchill Downs, who are the current owners, and then there's been some communication more on property tax issues with the lawyers for the Bears, but not a ton at that level. But there's been a lot of outreach. I talked to Randy Reckless and met him tonight at that reception for Dr. Schuler. I think that was a good contact to make. So, as Bill said last Thursday, the district and any reasonable school district is going to be in support of economic development. The key thing here is it sensible economic development? Does it help the school district and the community? Does it put too much of a burden on the school district? That's the balancing act here, and that's the needle we're trying to thread to get to the right point while doing what Bill said, which is being supportive of economic development.
Okay, thank you.
Who else? Dr.
Go
Petro.
ahead, Dan.
Okay, thanks, Harris. It seems to me that this legislation, this mega bill legislation, is something that the Illinois legislative body and the governor would have to vote on, right?
It will have to pass the General Assembly, both houses. It will have to go to the governor and get signed by him, yes.
Okay. We don't get to vote on any of this.
You do not.
Okay. And if it's a TIF district, that's up to, I think, Arlington Heights. I think it's entirely in Arlington Heights, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be the village board, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And we don't get to vote on that either.
You do not, you are a member of the Joint Review Board on the TIF concept, which is a
but
pretty
that's after it's done.
it's a toothless concept, yes.
Yeah, it's after it's all done. Okay, so then I'm trying to justify spending this kind of money for somebody to come in and represent us, and it's basically so they could go to Springfield and make sure that our part of the story gets heard.
That's exactly right. And the changes that we will be proposing to the bill have an opportunity to be introduced, getting in front of the right people, making sure that we have people like you, Dan, come down and testify, or somebody like that, and tell our story as best as possible.
Great, and I think that's very helpful for us and the community. And then, I know you talked just briefly about this, but we are looking at the financial impact to District 214, not just the village and community, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole concept of, say, the stadium. So if you look at what an NFL stadium goes for these days, SoFi Stadium in LA, the one in Las Vegas where the Raiders play now, those are $4 to $5 billion undertakings. So even if you say $1 spent on construction doesn't equal $1 of value, let's say the real value of a new stadium is $2 million. So what's the equalized assessed value of $2 billion? $2 billion. $2 billion, AV, $500 million, equalize that, EAV is $1.5 billion. Apply a 10% tax rate, which is in the ballpark, it ought to be generating taxes of about $150 million for you. So what is that special payment going to look like? You know what I'm saying? It's got to be a significant number to get close to replicating what the property tax is. Anything above the special payment is pure benefit to the Bears organization or whoever is the mega project developer.
And it's not only District 214, it's the District 214 taxpayers.
Absolutely. Like I said at the beginning, your tax base is primarily Wheeling and Elk Grove Township. So those are the folks who are going to be subsidizing this privately owned NFL stadium that will be worth billions of dollars when it's done.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions, Mr. Walker?
Harris, I know it's a very complicated thing, especially when you split the parcel and you have the mega portion and then you have the housing. So just thumbnail sketch. The mega project really doesn't incur any additional cost, they're just losing taxes. Where the TIF section, there will be increased costs because of additional students and everything. So in essence, when that happens, those students that come in from that area possibly would not be represented by tax dollars at a cost to educate those students.
Yeah, that's how a TIF works. That's right. Once the base is frozen, if there's a residential component, which this obviously would have, you are not getting commensurate tax dollars because anything above the base, what's known as the increment, that those incremental dollars go to the village. Now, there is a provision in the TIF Act that provides for sort of a de minimis student payment, but it's nowhere close to matching what the operating expense per pupil would be for any of the school districts. So it doesn't come close to providing what you need. There's going to be a mismatch between taxes generated and what the need is.
And that's why you're hired, right?
That's right. I mean, I've been involved in these sorts of undertakings in the past, but I'm not a lobbyist. Nobody at my firm is. That's why we want to bring that expertise on board.
Thank you for the clarity.
Ms. Palmer?
Just to follow up then to what Mr. Walker's saying in your responses, that we're looking at going from perhaps 150 million to no millions and a cost, right? To being way in the black to being in the red from it on a school district only standpoint.
If you look at what a stadium is likely worth and you say what's the assessed value of that market value and you equalize it and you apply a tax rate, that's a big number. And what the base value is going to be a very small number. So it's hugely important to make sure that you have a seat at the table for the determination of the special payment. That's really what this is all about, because if this runs for 40 years and that special payment is not adequate, it's problematic for the schools.
Anything further? I'm going to say the same thing I said last time. We would like to have an economic engine that will benefit us all. That's for sure. how we get there in a consensus mode is what we're working at. We're working very hard. I'm not sure how that happens, because this is new to all of us. Within the last 10 days, So we're trying to sort out where we fit into this process. Yes, we want to be at the table. Yes, we want to have good conversations with not only our communities around here, but we want to make sure that we're doing it in a fashion that doesn't have us throwing big brickbats at one another, but gets to a consensus where we can all walk out of this feeling good. That's my idea. That's the whole idea, and that's where I think we're at. Ms. Kreitzer?
Yeah, Eris, I don't know if you were involved, because I tried to think of a large parcel that they tipped, and the only thing I could think about was, remember the Motorola campus?
I'm familiar with it.
Yes, and remember when they tipped and they put housing in there? And I thought I remember District 15 was in that fight, weren't they?
Yeah, so that, I think, is in districts, part of it is 54, part is 15. I think it's all, I want to say 211, right? Yeah, but you're right, that Motorola campus used to be a massive corporate campus. There's really just one Motorola building left. There's a lot of residential. Zurich America took some of that space at Algonquin, I think, and Meacham.
Right.
And then it kind of goes all the way up to medieval times, but other areas have filled in with infill developments as well.
Right. That was the only property I could think of that could probably compare to Arlington, where they're going to put housing in. Yeah, and I can't remember the superintendent's name, but I know that he was at the table fighting that, how many kids am I going to get? Because there was no housing there. It was just corporate. And the other property I was thinking of was the Bussey Farm in Elk Grove that they tiffed, but it was a farm, and they put a tech park in there. So really, we know farm property taxes are very, very low.
Yes.
Yes, and now the area is tiffed. So I think the public needs to understand that whenever they freeze the EAV, you'll still get that money, but you won't get anything else. You'll get that for 23 years. If it's $100, you'll get $100 for 23 years.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
That's a good way of describing it, Alva. And just to build on that a little bit, the Cook County Clerk issued a report. You can go to her website, it's cookcountyclerk.org, and click on TIF reports. But there's a recent report on sort of the financial impact of TIFs in Cook County. And her research, her data scientists indicated that about the average Cook County tax bill is 9.4% higher because of all the TIF districts in Cook County. There's so many of them, and they collected, she had added up to $1.6 billion just in the most recent cycle, so 21 taxes collected as of late December 2022. So TIFs have a big impact on the community and on the schools, no question.
And we have 19 of them.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there any comments from the public? Yes.
All right, so I'm just taking a few notes. I'm just observing the fact that there was mention of trying to estimate the number of students coming into the Arlington Park development, but this isn't some town in Florida where you were getting empty nesters from out of state. People are going to be filtering through the whole housing stock, and I would hope that the analysis would reflect that an empty nester is going to be selling their family home and a new family is going to be moving in with kids. So it's not just about Arlington Park. The second is that the budget assumptions that were posted online for the discussion later today have a statement that the assessed value has decreased, and I don't know to what extent that means that the baseline tax level has already reflected Arlington Park not being used, and that there's already a risk that there's going to be very low baseline that's going to be used in that TIF district in that basis. So I would encourage somebody to ask about that.
Thank you. Call the roll, please. Oops, pardon me.
Melissa Kerr speaking. If you, all those school districts get together with a lobbyist, would that be collusion among school districts? And Arlington Heights already has dense housing with water management issues. And what is the current value of the would-be District 214 TIF money that's in bank accounts? Probably about $19 million. And get a second opinion about voting on the TIFs at the Joint Review Board meetings. And don't bet with property tax money. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. The project may fail. And abolish the TIF statute for Illinois. And we don't want to be too far away from farming. We don't need so much dense housing and other buildings. Thanks.
Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Kreitzer. Aye. Palmer. Aye. Heineman.
Aye.
Petro.
Aye.
Rauch.
Aye.
Walker.
Yes.
And Dessling.
Yes. Now we have action item 9.2, approval of additions to academic programs and pathways guidebook. Could I have a motion?
Second.
We saw this at the last meeting, and essentially there's not a change.
Yeah, there's no change from the update provided at our last board meeting. So
Board member comments?
recommend approval.
Was there any more information? I know there was a question raised about the curriculum for some of the potential pilots.
Yeah, that was provided, and it is public, the framework for both of those pilots.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, any comments from the public? Please call the roll.
Petro.
Aye.
Kreitzer. Aye. Heineman.
Aye.
Palmer. Aye. Rauch.
Aye.
Walker.
Yes.
And Dessling.
Aye. Now we have a discussion item 10.1, the 2023-24 preliminary budget guidelines and assumptions. And I believe we have two people here. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Yasmin Dada. I'm the current interim associate superintendent for the business office. And my team and I, with Mike present here, have been working in the past few weeks getting the assumption sheet to you. Each year at this time, this information is shared with you, and as you know, this is a key document that we use in developing our budget each year. In addition to that, we seek out input from local, federal, and state sources as to what our revenues are going to be. We look to see internally as to what is happening in the district, as what our needs are, and what our staffing needs and other related costs are. In addition, we look to see what other things are as far as CPI, as far as growth in cost, and we put all that in a budget document that we share with you in June. But our focal point this evening is on the assumptions that we're going to use in developing the budget. We'll keep coming back to you to share with you what we are doing, but Mike will share with you some of the information that is in the presentation that is in your board packet in case you have any questions.
Thank you, Yasmin. As we begin thinking about next school year and start developing our budget guidelines, some of the assumptions that we have made might change over the next several months as we continue to collect more information leading up to the tentative budget presentation in June. So starting with our largest source of revenue, which is the funds that we collect through the tax levy, most recently approved by the board in December, we expect to receive that first installment this spring. The second installment of the tax levy will be collected in the fall, which is the first half of next school year. So we already have a sense of, so the tax levy that was approved in December, the first installment is going to be this spring. The second installment is going to be approved in the fall, or collected in the fall. So we already have a sense of what that is going to look like. When we do the tax levy this December, we are going to collect 55% of that tax extension in the spring of 2024, which is the second half of next school year, which we already know that the CPI used in that calculation will be 5% again. and that the EAV is going to increase because of the Cook County's triennial reassessment of all property values in 2022. In addition, we'll also have one TIF in Wheeling that will be expiring this year as well. In addition, another important source of revenue that will impact our budget will be the Corporate Personal Property Replacement Tax, or CPPRT. We spoke with the Illinois Department of Revenue, and they are expecting a significant decrease in that tax heading into next fiscal year, which we will find out for sure how much of a decrease that is when the Illinois Department of Revenue releases that report in August. We spoke with our investment advisors, and they anticipate our interest earnings to be to slightly increase next year, but that will still be below what we would normally get in years prior to COVID. In regards to state funding, specifically our evidence-based funding, we anticipate that to remain the same. And lastly, for our federal funding sources, as Dr. Lopez had mentioned earlier, we still have the ESSER 3 funds that we expect to use over the next couple of years. On the flip side, as we look at what our expenses will be next school year, salaries and benefits make up a majority of our annual expenditures. Each employee group will have their salaries increase based on their current contractual agreements. Although for our ESP staff, those increases will be determined by the current ongoing negotiations that will be completed to begin next school year. Also, similar to what we saw last year, we anticipate health insurance costs to increase by approximately 8%, which those rates will be finalized by our insurance committee in September. Excuse me. And as we are all aware, inflation is still high. It's at 6.5% right now, which means that all of our services, supplies, and equipment are going to be that much more expensive, and we're going to have to budget accordingly. That will include things like our construction materials, classroom supplies, transportation fuel costs, and utilities at each of our buildings. However, our goal still remains the same, which is to provide the board a balanced operating budget in June, as we always have, and the plan is to still be in line with our fund balance white paper. And those are our preliminary budget guidelines heading into next fiscal year.
Board members, questions? Dr. Peter.
Always interesting to look at the budget assumptions, and we're kind of limited by when the county decides to distribute the property taxes. Is that right?
That's correct.
And they were delayed this year by, what, 3 months?
Just about, yeah. Typically, they come out in August, and they were released in late November last year.
All right, and we're using our reserves in the interim until we get that money.
That's correct.
So when you're talking about losing interest, that's what you're talking about?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. I know in the past we've had a chance to change our interest because it went up. So do we anticipate that our deposits are going to get any better than 0.01% or whatever they were?
I'm not actually sure about that, but we can certainly reach out to our investment advisors and get a clear answer.
I'd ask you to look into that because I know that we're very restricted in what we can invest our funds in, but whatever those are, it would be nice if we got a little bit better return on our buck, right?
Correct.
Okay. In terms of your budget assumptions, have you calculated in any additional staff?
The current staffing plan is currently being discussed by our curriculum and other departments, but we don't know what that looks like just yet until those are finalized.
Okay, so did we put an extra marker in there for additional staff when you're doing your budget assumptions?
Again, without knowing exactly what they have planned, and because those are still ongoing, it's difficult to say this early.
Okay. Other possible reductions in revenue, do you see anything else that is out there? Do we have other property going into a TIF that we're going to lose income from? Or you said that Wheeling has TIF coming off, will that generate any additional revenue for the school district at this point?
Yes, the EAV has increased significantly for that Wheeling property, so we expect that we'll collect that additional revenue once it becomes on the tax rolls.
Okay, is that the town hall one?
I think it's the Manchester Drive TIF in Wheeling.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, board members? You know, we're in a situation with our budget. We get our, when do we normally get our EAV, final EAV, so you can calculate?
Cook County typically releases that tax agency report in August.
When did we get it last year?
Late November.
And we've got to finalize this budget by when?
By the end of September.
So there's a lot of looking back in history and trying to figure out where it's going.
Correct.
For this process.
Correct.
Well, I think you do an awfully good job trying to figure it out with so many things that aren't known positively. So that's greatly appreciated. Any other comments? Any comments from the board members? Or from the public, rather? Okay. This will come back when for our budget back in August?
The board will approve the preliminary budget guidelines next month, and then we will bring to the board the tentative budget in June, the final budget in August.
Okay. So we'll see this next month then as a action item.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I need a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees who serve as independent contractors in an educational setting, or legal counsel for the public body under 5 ICLS 120/2, parentheses C, parentheses 1, amended by PA 101-459. That'll clarify. Collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or other representatives or deliberation concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees under 5 ICLS 120/2, parentheses C, parentheses 2. Immediately following closed session, the board will convene in open session and may take action resulting from closed session discussions. Can I have a motion to go?
So moved.
Second. Call the roll, please.
Palmer. Aye. Heineman.
Aye.
Kreitzer. Aye. Petro.
Aye.
Rauch. Aye. Walker.
Aye.
Dessling.
Fine, thank you. Thank you for attending the open meeting. If you want to stay around till the closed session is done, I would estimate we're looking at least an hour.
We may, yeah.
Okay. Okay, start her off.
10:28.
Okay, good evening. We're back from closed session, and we do have some action items. I believe, who's reading the first action item?
I move to approve Personnel Transaction Report 2, including the intent to retire for Angel Johnson and Greg Minter effective June 30th, 2027, and the appointment of Laura Bernstein, Assessment Supervisor, Prospect High School.
Second.
Any comment from the public? Please call the roll.
Rauch.
Aye.
Kreutzer.
Aye.
Heineman.
Aye.
Palmer. Aye. Petro.
No.
Walker.
Aye.
Dustling.
Yes. Next one.
I move for approval of job descriptions 12.2. I move to approve the job description for Assistant Director of Career Discovery.
Second.
Any comments? Any public comments? Call the roll.
Palmer. Aye. Kreutzer.
Aye.
Heineman.
Aye.
Petro.
Yes.
Rauch.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Dustling.
Yes, could I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Heineman.
Aye.
Kreutzer.
Aye.
Palmer. Aye. Petro.
Aye.
Rauch.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Dustling.
Aye, thank you all for joining us, and
29.